Hi everyone, Rico Ricks once again and welcome back to another episode of Mathflex. So today's episode is special. Special because for one, we will be flexing one request from one of our subscribers. And the second one is I will be sharing with you my personal experience as far as this whole pandemic is concerned. I know that each of us has its own story to tell, but for today, let me just share you mine. So that was April 18 of this year when I started to feel like itchiness in my throat. So I was in constant denial that that was okay, that was nothing, and I used to have this kind of sore throat or itchiness every time the weather changes. So I just ignored it and I continued to work that week span of April 19 to 23. But I had to check my body temperature from time to time because I was anticipating also that new symptoms will develop. So our security is checking also our temperature before entering and leaving the company. So I was consistently registering around 36 to 37 degrees centigrade, which I think it's normal. Until the last day of that week, that was April 23, Thursday. The moment I woke up, I felt like exhausted already and I was breathing heavily, but I still managed to go to work and thankfully finished the day. So I went home and went directly on my bed. Then I started to chill and I felt like my body temperature was getting higher. So the following day, that was April 24, I had full-blown fever. So the body temperature was as high as 38.3 degrees centigrade. And I started to lose appetite and I couldn't taste the food the way they should be. That was April 25. So my body temperature was even higher. It was around 38.7 that time. And I tried to dose more medicine so I could get better, so I could report to work. So that night of April 25, I didn't get better, so I decided to call my manager, my boss. So I told him that I have fever, so I told him that I might not come to work the following day. So he told me that, okay, don't come to work, just relax, take a rest, we will arrange everything for you. April 26, the driver came here to pick us up and we went to almost like 3 to 4 hospitals, but unfortunately that time those hospitals were not conducting PCR or any swab test yet. So until such time that one of my colleagues called me and told me that, okay, try to this hospital. So we went there and fortunately I was immediately attended because I was having high fever already and I was coughing. So they put me on IV and then they injected medicines to lower my temperature and my blood pressure as well. And they had my chest x-rayed also. So and then after that they conducted the PCR or the swab test. And then they had me rested for almost like 3 to 4 hours. After that, they discharged me and the doctor told me that, okay, just wait for the result of your swab test 2 to 3 days. So we went home. So April 26, 27 were the most excruciating and most torturing days so far of my 2020. I was in pain, my hands are getting numb, and also my feet were cold. I was breathing heavily. That time, I just could not qualify if my shortness of breath was due to the suspected virus or because my heart beats so fast. On top of that, I was also thinking what the future holds because I know that what I had will develop into something worse based on the videos that we get to see from the YouTube and from the Facebook. And also waiting for the swab test result adds up to the anxiety level. I was positive that time that the result will be positive, but I just want this confirmation from the hospital that I am positive so me and my wife can take the next step. So as they say, when it rains, it pours. So that same day, my wife got a message from her company saying that they put her on redundancy and her services ended. So we were really at our lowest emotions, and I told God, I even bargained to Him that, okay, Lord, please not now. If this is one of your challenges, delay it. We just got married and we just started to build our own family. So please not now. And then we came across to this Bible verse from our phone saying that, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So that was from Isaiah 41:10. So I told him, okay, Lord, if this is your will, let it be done. So we leave everything to you. That particular Bible verse somehow gave us comfort. So I fell asleep for almost like 2 hours. Then I woke up and checked my phone and saw this message coming from the hospital saying that my COVID-19 test is negative. There was like a surge of energy, and I felt like 50% of the pain had gone already. I didn't question the result, so I hold on to it. The following day, I put myself back on track. So I continued the medication, monitored my blood pressure, and then 4 days after that, I felt better. So we went back to hospital to have my heart checked. So they put me also on stress test, and they had my heart checked also by 2D echo. Fortunately, the results were all okay. So from then on, I tried to boost my immune system, take daily exercise, and also the most important thing is pray. I think the lesson learned here is that let God be in control. There are underlying reasons why He let us experience the very lows of our lives. We just have to do our part, and He will take care of the rest. Just leave everything to Him. So that's our COVID-19 story. I know that there are a lot more to come. So just stay safe, everyone. And let's go directly to our board work. The second part of our episode is we will be flexing the request of one of our subscribers, and she is asking us to discuss or to make a short introduction of complex number. So what are complex numbers? Complex numbers are actually numbers that are usually expressed in the form of A plus B I, wherein A and B are real numbers and I is actually the solution of the equation x squared is equal to -1. So as we learned before, that if you have this equation x squared is equal to 1, then to find the value of x here, so we square both sides of the equation. So x then is equal to the square root of 1 plus and minus is equal to plus and minus the square root of 1, so which gives us an answer which is plus and minus 1. So in here, there are no real numbers that would define the solution of the equation x squared is equal to 1. So if you'll try to get the square root of -1, so plus and minus the square root of -1. So if you'll try that in your calculator, so I think it will give you error. But to define the solution of this equation, we say that the square root of -1 is actually I, or an imaginary number. So now that we know that the square root of -1 is I, so taking the square of both sides, I will have it like I squared is equal to the square of, or the square root of -1 times the square root of -1 is -1, right? Then if I make I cube, this can be simplified as I squared times I, right? But I squared is equal to -1, so I cube is also equal to -1 times I, which is -I. Then if I'll try to raise it to the 4th power, so I I to the fourth is equal to, I can rewrite it as I squared times I squared, right? Which is, I squared is equal to -1, so -1 times -1, so that means I to the fourth will give us 1, right? And then, if you'll have it like I to the fifth, so that means it's I to the fourth times I, so I to the fourth is equal to 1, so I to the fifth then is equal to I. Succeedingly, we have I to the sixth is equal to I to the fourth times I squared, so I to the fourth is what? I to the fourth is 1, I squared is -1, so I to the sixth then is equal to -1. I to the seventh is equal to I to the fourth times I cubed is equal to what? So I cubed then is equal to -I to the fourth is, so this is -I. And then I to the eighth is equal to I to the fourth times I to the fourth, or it can be written like I to the fourth squared. So I to the fourth is 1. 1 squared is equal to 1. Why I presented this? Because I want you to see the pattern, especially on I to the fourth and I to the eighth. So you will observe here that I to the fourth and I to the eighth, their exponent is divisible by 4. So in other words, the conclusion that we can derive from that is an I that is raised to a number divisible by 4 is equal to 1. Let's try to simplify this. It's I to the 29 plus I to the 21 plus I. So what will be the simplified form? So we have the choices here. So as we said before, that an I that is raised to an exponent divisible by 4 is always equal to 1. So if I have I to the 29 plus I to the 21 plus I, so think of numbers that is nearest to 29 and divisible by 4. So I think it's I28. So I can rewrite this one as I to the 28 times I plus, similarly for I raised to 21, so what is the nearest number to 21 that is divisible by 4? So I think it's 20, right? So I to the 20 times I, so this is 28 plus 1, it's 29. 20 plus 1 is 21 plus I. So what have we learned before? That an I raised to a power that is divisible by 4 is always equal to 1. So this I28 is equal to 1. So therefore, this is I plus 1 times I, another I, and I. So the answer or the simplified form of this is 3I. So the answer here is letter A. Let's go to our next problem. Let's have this second problem. It says we have to simplify 4 plus 8i divided by I cube. So in other problems or similar problems like this, you might find that instead of simplify, they will put rationalize. So why rationalize? Because you have this I cube here, which is where I is in the form of square root of -1, right? So the meaning of rationalization is we have to get rid of the radical sign in the denominator. So how do we get rid of the radical sign in the denominator? So first, let's simplify I cube. So what is I cube? I cube is, as we say before, I squared is equal to -1, right? I cube is equal to I squared times I. So which is I squared is equal to -1 and times I. So I cubed then is equal to -I. So in other words, I cube here can be simplified as -I. So we can rewrite this one as 4 plus 8i divided by -I, since I cube is equal to -I. So again, we are asked to simplify, or we are asked to rationalize. So how do I get rid of this -I in the denominator? So as you can see here, I squared will give us negative 1. So if I multiply I to another I, it will give me an I squared, right? So in this case, I will try to multiply both numerator and denominator by negative I divided by negative I. So this can be like negative I times 4. So that is negative 4I, okay, minus negative I times 8I, so that is 8I squared. Divided by negative I times negative I is I, positive I squared. So again, what have we learned? That I squared is equal to negative 1. So let's simplify this further. So negative 4I minus 8. Since I squared here is negative 1, so it's negative 1 divided by negative 1. And then again, simplifying further, so you'll have negative 4I. Negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8 divided by negative 1. So dividing negative 4I plus 8 by negative 1, so it will give you an answer which is 4I minus 8. 4I minus 8. So in this case, checking from the choices, we'll have letter C as the answer. Another way to rationalize this problem is just check the denominator here. It's already I cubed. As we learned before that I to the fourth is equal to 1. So therefore, what you will do here is you can directly multiply both denominator and numerator, both numerator and denominator by I over I. So that will give you I cubed times I, which is I to the fourth, and that is 1. And then multiply I to here, so that will give you 4I plus 8I squared. But I squared is equal to negative 1, so negative 1 times 8 will give you negative 8. So our last problem is we have to rationalize this term, 4 plus 3I divided by 2 minus negative I. So as we said before, to rationalize the term, we have to think of ways on how we can get rid of the rational number or radical sign in the denominator or denominator. So let's try that one. So 4 plus 3I divided by 2 minus I. So what I will multiply to both numerator and denominator so I can get rid of the I here. So if I try to multiply this one as 2 plus I divided by 2 minus I, okay? So it will have like sum and difference of two terms. It's like x plus 1 times x minus 1. It will give me x squared minus 1. So same through here. So sum and difference of two terms. So let's try to simplify that one. So 4 times 2 is 8 plus 4 times I is 4i, plus 3i times 2 is 6i, plus 3i times I is 3i squared, right? And then the denominator then would be 2 minus I times 2 plus I, so sum and difference of two squares, so square both the first term and the last term and take their difference, so that would be 4 minus I squared, right? So let's put together similar terms. So that's 8 plus 4i plus 6i is 10i, and then 3i squared, we know that I squared, this is negative 1, so that means negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, right? And then 4 minus negative 1, so 4 minus negative 1, so that will be positive. 4 plus 1 is equal to 5. So simplifying further, we'll have 8 minus 3 is 5 plus 10i divided by 5, right? So we can factor out 5 in the numerator, so we can have it like 5 times 1 plus 2i divided by 5. So cancels 5 here. So the final answer is 1 plus 2i. So that's our answer for this problem, and it is letter A. So that's it for today's episode. Actually, what we had before are only introductory problems to a more complex problems on our succeeding or on our latter episodes. So for now, I hope that somehow we address the request of our subscriber. And again, I'll be leaving this problem for you to solve, and I want you to comment down below kung ano ang sagot nyo sa problem na to. So please like, share, of course watch, click the notification bell for you to get updated sa mga succeeding videos natin. Until next time, stay safe everyone. Bye-bye!